Tonight on Connecticut's news station, calls for justice ringing out in Hamden. Migrant workers say their wages are being stolen and state labor officials are doing nothing to help. We'll take you to tonight's rally.
Can Hartford successfully adopt a new way of community policing? City leaders seem to think so, joining the new boots on the ground beat walk officers in Hartford to see how the community is responding so far. And new details tonight about the historic prisoner swap with Russia, bringing home 2 jailed journalists and a former U.S. Marine, among others. Turns out President Biden won their freedom back on July 21st, sealing the deal just minutes before dropping out of the race for the White House.
Now at 10, this is Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
A busy night across Connecticut. We'll get to those top stories momentarily, but we begin tonight with a forecast. The heat and humidity getting even worse tomorrow. Thanks for joining us at 10. I'm Brent Harden.
And I'm Sarah Sanchez. Our team's issued a weather impact alert. Tomorrow's expected to be another hot one. You'll want to think carefully before heading outside and dress accordingly. Yeah, Chief Meteorologist Rachel Frayne joining us now with everything you need to know. Rach.
Yeah, sometimes we issue these weather impact alerts when there's a threat for severe weather or dangerous weather, and other times when, hey, you just might want to rethink your day and it might end up changing your schedule. This heat is not unusual at all for us here in early August, but it may end up changing your schedule around. The hottest weather between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m. That's when a heat advisory is in effect, and the heat index could get as high as between 95 to near triple digits. So you know the drill. Whatever you did to stay cool today, you'll have to do that again tomorrow. And it's a warm and humid night, and it makes it tough to cool off your homes. Temperatures right now in the upper 70s to right around 80 degrees, and overnight lows will be right around 70. If you woke up this morning with a little bit of patchy fog, we could do that again as we head into tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll do it all over. A mix of sun and clouds, very humid conditions, and the heat is on with high temperatures around 90, feeling like between 95 to 100. One difference though tomorrow is I think there is a better chance for a hit or miss shower or thunderstorm in the afternoon and evening. This may actually be something welcome in your town because at least it'll briefly cool off temperatures, but it certainly will not drop the humidity. We're going to talk about a rising chance for showers and storms as we step into the weekend. The timing on that, your full forecast coming up in just a bit, guys.
All right, Rachel, thank you. New at 10, the Department of Justice has dropped its investigation into Connecticut State Police over those accusations that troopers had falsified thousands of traffic stop tickets. Now, this is from Governor Ned Lamont and State Police Commissioner Ronell Higgins at a press conference today. They said the federal investigation is not moving forward, but did not provide a reason for why the case has been dropped. Traffic ticket records stretching back to 2014 were subpoenaed by the Justice Department last October. The governor says there are still 6 to 7 troopers being questioned, and there is an ongoing administrative review, but he asserts that all other incongruities were mistakes, not conscious efforts to commit fraud on the part of the troopers.
Another motorcycle crash on Connecticut streets, this time in Ansonia. Police tell us a 35-year-old man slammed into the back of a minivan while riding his motorcycle. This happened on Wakely Avenue around 8 p.m. last night. The man has serious injuries to his head and his legs. The driver of the minivan was not injured. New here at 10, migrant workers showed up in force outside the Department of Labor office in Hamden.
Yeah, they claimed they were not paid thousands of dollars of wages they were owed, and the Department of Labor is not helping them hold their employers accountable. Fox
61's Alexa Farrell was at today's rally, and she spoke to organizers and labor officials with more.
Connecticut workers within the migrant community, along with advocates, gathered outside the Connecticut Department of Labor office in Hamden Thursday evening to call for justice.
We just got the news like last week, where the Department of Labor has not been doing their job.
John Lugo, the director of New Haven's Unidad Latina en Nacion, says 800 labor cases have gone untouched by the DOL. Se puede. Sí se puede. Lugo says many of the workers that stood alongside him Thursday in the hot summer heat are out thousands of dollars because of unpaid wages. Workers like Lina Seguya, who along with her husband worked for 3 months in a New Haven restaurant without getting paid.
What do you want? Justice. When do you want it? La deuda total.
So on my part, I was owed $18,000, and for my husband, he was owed $5,000 in lost wages.
She says the Department of Labor handled her case without speaking to her, and she received a check in the mail for only 20% of what she was owed. And then they closed her case. She wants to know what happened with the rest of the money she's owed. Other workers say they never even had their case looked at.
And that worker never got paid. That's not a worker, not anymore. He's a slave. So many of those 800 cases is like we're talking about 800 slaves who they never got paid.
Their demands include reopening the cases that have been previously ignored or dismissed. Governor Ned Lamont allocating more money to the Department of Labor, as well as Division Director Thomas Wydra stepping down.
For the first 15 years of our organization, we used to have a good relationship with the Labor Department. But lately, it's just like they're not on the side of the people.
The Department of Labor said in a response they would welcome additional funding. And in a statement, they went on to say, while we recognize that ULA is concerned with wage cases, it's important to note that the division has a broad mandate, including responding to urgent workplace health and safety situations. As for the calls for the division director to step down, the DOL said, we are very disappointed that ULA would even make that suggestion. CTDOL has worked with ULA for years, especially on domestic worker protections, and they know how hard CTDOL has advocated for additional wage and workplace division staffing. They say that they're working on clearing the backlog, and they encourage ULA to join them. In Hamden, Alexa Farrell, Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
Justice for Ethan Burke tonight, 4 years after his death. A jury finds the only suspect in his murder guilty. Elijah Bertrand was 22 when he killed a fellow UPS driver. Burke was found dead in his truck. Bertrand apparently stabbed him and then took off. Officers found him at a gas station the next day in Plymouth. Bertrand will be sentenced in October.
And in Bridgeport, a guilty verdict for a different 2020 murder. 29-year-old Jeffon Brown faces up to 70 years behind bars for the deadly shooting of 23-year-old Jonathan Dawson. Police found Dawson's body on the side of I-95 back in June of 2020 in East Lyme. Brown was linked to Dawson's death when police found video of the two leaving Dawson's Bridgeport home. It was the last time Dawson was ever spotted on camera before the shooting. Brown will be sentenced in October.
Hartford police are on the streets bringing back walk beats into neighborhoods, and this time it's permanent. Today, city leaders and locals came out, meeting in the streets to talk about what they'd all like to see from this boots on the ground policing.
The gun violence and the young kids getting the guns, the shooting, the killing, the stabbing. I want it all to stop.
Sally Oliver lost her son Brian in 2021.
My son had just turned 21, 5 days in. We have to stop, y'all.
He was shot and killed right off Albany in the North End. Sally's now an activist, but also still a mother who wants to see the same streets that killed her son be a safer place. She joined others Thursday morning while Hartford police showed off the new walk beat assignments.
So we start off going to every businesses and seeing the people, the citizens on the road. We say good morning to everyone. That's first and foremost.
The department and City Hall are using walk beats as an answer to a call for a better public safety strategy, a way to build good relationships with business owners and neighbors.
Our police officers care so deeply about this city. They're so hardworking, and as residents get to meet them person to person, we think it's going to make such a huge impact on the feeling of safety in communities like this.
They love us so far. They love us. This is
They're
awesome.
honking horns and waving.
Yeah, they love us. Yeah.
It's no secret the city's policing practices have been called into question, especially by minority groups. Just last year, a video on social media showing Hartford police recruits marching in formation through the Frog Hollow neighborhood drew backlash. The department wanted recruits to get a sense of the neighborhoods they were serving, but the optics weren't great.
You can't seem like you are intimidated by the crowd. Why does it take 30 of you to walk down the street together like this? Are you scared of us? Why are you here then?
But today, it's a new administration, a new mayor and a new chief who were both trying to address the call for enhanced policing.
So when these two lovely folks came in 2 weeks ago, the difference from then till now has been seen, it's been felt, it's been heard in a positive way.
Walk beats aren't anything new. Most recently, the department had to scrap them because of staffing issues. Mayor Aruna Naralampulam says officers were assigned to walk beats in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. He says folks have told him they miss those days. In 2024, though, there are 2 officers on Park Street, 2 on Albany Avenue, and 1 assigned to downtown.
The families of the prisoners were able to speak to them by phone from the Oval Office and then join President Biden for his announcement of the release and that of Russian political prisoners, too. At this hour, 3 Americans imprisoned by the Kremlin are making their way from Turkey across the Atlantic, finally free. Their release is the result of the most complex prisoner swap since the Cold War. In all, Russia and Belarus released 16 prisoners ranging in age from 19 to 71, among them journalist Evan Gershkovich and former U.S. Marine Paul Whelan, as well as political activists, Pulitzer Prize winners, and opponents of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In exchange, the U.S. and our allies released 8 Russian prisoners, including alleged sleeper agents, 2 cyber criminals, and a Russian hitman. 7 countries were involved in the deal overall.
They stood up for democracy and human rights. Their own leaders threw them in prison. The United States helped secure their release as well. That's who we are in the United States. We stand for freedom, for liberty, for justice, not only for our own people, but for others as well.
Now, we're expecting the 3 who are flying home to the U.S. at this very moment to arrive sometime in the next 90 minutes, if not sooner. There is still a lot to unpack regarding this prisoner swap, and we'll have insight and analysis later this half hour.